London, you would expect a lot of people from the US because they need their championship points, people from other rating systems that also have the championship points. But here we see people actually from Japan coming here to just get the title of the International Championship Europe winner. He's playing a very interesting Rainbow Force deck. A few things that are very unlikely or not happen don't very often enlist at Western tournaments. So I think it will be very interesting to see how these compete against each other. It's kind of like the World Championship where you have your very different meta games kind of like crashing into each other, and it's hard for the Europeans to predict the Asians and the Americans. It's hard for the Americans to see what the Europeans are actually thinking. And his opponent is from Europe, called Alessandro Santini, an Italian player, going for, as we already talked about, Eviltal. But he plays, again, a different list from what we have shown here. So this will be a new game, new matchup, so stay tuned for this.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting one. As you were saying, Takuya's list is unorthodox. It's not really natural, so Alessandro may have playtested against the Rainbow Force deck before. It's a well-known archetype. However, there's going to be tricks that Takuya has that maybe Alessandro is not prepared for. So this is going to be one that you're going to have to watch very closely, and there are some cool tech cards in here for sure. We see Takuya does lead with the main attacker of the deck, which is Xerneas Non-EX. We see Alessandro lead with the Yveltal EX, which we've seen so much already today. We do see the early double colorless energy get attached, followed up by an N.
Yeah, in Takuya's prize cards we see one Xerneas Break, which is it's not that common, but a lot of Europeans and Americans also play it. It's a cool way to get more HP against stuff like, for example, Frightened Evital, where the Fighting Fury Belt doesn't help a lot. And also it gives you the option, I think this is the main purpose, to knock out stuff like Jolteon EX, which is not able to be damaged by a basic Pokemon once it attacks. But when you evolve into Xerneas Break, you can just get a one-hit knockout on one of these Jolteon EX, and when your opponent wants to attack with Jolteon EX again, you can just take the second knockout, draw 4 prize cards, and you're only a Lysander Shaman away to win the game. So Alessandro is going first, having a double colors attached to his active Eviltal, and also is able to grab a Max Elixir. So in theory, these Rainbow Forest decks can take one-hit knockouts first turn, but Alessandro got the Fighting Fury Belt, and I think it's very unlikely that Takuya has everything he needs now.
Yeah, Takuya really does need to explode this turn if he's looking to hit the 210 damage that he needs to do to reach the one-hit KO. He's starting off pretty well, though. He has a backup Xerneas, which he's benched, and immediately you do have the Max Elixir. So although Rainbow Force is a 3 energy attack cost, you're just 1 Max Elixir hit, which is what he's done, and a double colorless energy away from initiating the prize race, which is going to be really handy here. We do have to bear in mind, of course, the resistance that Xerneas has to Dark. It's going to be very relevant throughout this game. Effectively, the Xerneases have 140 HP against all of Alessandro's attackers, obviously other than Shaman EX. Looks like Takuya is instead going to attach a Fair Energy to the active, bench a non-EX Mew from Fates Collide, and we're also going to see a Professor Sycamore here to refresh his hand. So he's already said that, you know what, I'm probably not going to reach this one-hit KO anyway. I may as well set up 2 Xerneases and set up for the following turn. We do see a Joltik hit the bench as well. Obviously, it's a single type as lightning type. It has free retreat. There's a few reasons why this Joltik is great, but what becomes even better is that when it evolves into a Galvantula, it is both a grass and a lightning type. So the Rainbow Force is actually doing plus 60 damage for just 1 bench slot. So it's a great way for Takuya to increase his damage output with this deck.
Yeah, Galvantula is also very cool because you can deal 30 damage on 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. However, if they are weak to either lightning or grass Pokemon, which all Eviltals are, you deal 60 damage. So 60 damage on 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. That's 120 for 1 energy. It's a very effective attack. One thing I realized is that Takuya does not play Fighting Fury Belt in his deck, and this is very important in the Eviltal matchup because you have resistance, but you still only have 120 HP. So for double colorless, 1 darkness energy, and then it's already 120 damage. So you really usually want to have Fighting Fury Belt. However, he does play Max Elixir and XP Share, which for most people is like, well, you either play the XP Share version with 4 XP Share and no Fighting Fury Belts, or you play the Max Elixir version. He plays a weird mix of this, and I think Alessandro could expect different things from him, and this could turn the matchup around.
Absolutely. So we do see a clean setup for 6 fresh cards from Alessandro. He then does find himself a Trubbish, which he benches. He just plays a 1-1 line in this list, so it's nice that he's able to find that early. Combining that with something like N late on in the game could really help limit Takuya's outs if he does race ahead in prizes, which is often the case with the Rainbow Road list because it's a non-EX which hits so hard. We do see him continue on with his turn. He's going to Ultra Ball away, a third Ultra Ball and a Reverse Valley, which he plays 2 of in this deck, and it may be something that he has to keep in mind because it can almost mitigate the resistance which Xerneas has. Seeing the discard pile isn't ideal because sometimes initiating a Stadium War is important against the Rainbow Road player. But he does find himself a Fright Knight Yveltal and another Max Elixir, so he's getting pretty nicely set up here. Unfortunately, that one does miss, so he's got an interesting turn ahead of him. It's really interesting to see Alessandro's list because we see the 2 Yveltal EX, that's actually all he plays. The deck is much more focused on the Fright Knight Yveltal, of which he plays 4, and Takuya's list is only playing Floatstones as his switch cards. He's not playing an Olympia, he's not playing Escape Rope or Switch itself. So Alessandro's win condition may well be the Fright Knight at some point during this game. So it's going to be an interesting decision whether he goes into the Garbodor or not, because Fright Knight could be his win condition here.
Yeah, also the usual game plan against Rainbow Road when you play Yveltal is just to use like Parasity Garbodor, then get 1 big knockout and hope your opponent doesn't keep up. But Takuya's list has like the XP share, and also other stuff, like when you have Galvantula and Volcanion in play, Parasity isn't that big of a deal usually, and then you can still draw a lot of prize cards, so this could become a problem. But Alessandro's field looks very decent at this point, and again it's a very interesting choice if you use Cyclone or Evil Ball, because in theory he could get knocked out next turn when his opponent just has a double colors energy card and a full bench. When he evolves his Joltik and has a Volcanion in play, he can actually deal, I think he can deal 210.
Yeah, so it looks like he's opted, he was doing some little math in his head there, and he's gone for the Evil Ball. Obviously, it's the 3 energy on the Yveltal, plus the 1 from the Xerneas, plus the base damage of 20, the Fury Belt, and then you have to minus the 20 thanks to resistance. So, going to do the 90 with the Evil Ball here, and he still feels fairly confident that he can tank a hit here with his Fighting Fury Belt. At the very least, he does have 1 energy on the EX in the back, so he feels fairly safe to just continue on with Evil Ball. As we see it go back over to Takuya, who is going to start off with an Ultra Ball. There's quite a few options in here. There's one thing that he's not playing, which is quite common in European lists, is Hooper EX. Takuya is actually playing, we see the Galvantula, but he is still playing a heavy EX build. He does have the Genesect EX, he has Volcanion, he also plays Dragonite, which is an option for him to recover some bench after he gets hit with something like Parallel City or he suffers knockouts. This Ultra Ball is going to find himself a Volcanion EX. This is not used as an attacker at all in this deck. It is simply used because it's a basic Pokemon that is a dual type. So
yeah, it's also the only basic Pokemon that has 2 types.
Yeah.
So I think if there would be any other, I think you would not play Volcanion because the ability doesn't do anything. The attack, you're not able to attack, and it has 3 retreats. So often you actually lose because your opponent has Fright Knight and then plays Lysander Volcanion and you can't retreat it. I think he also doesn't play any switch cards, which is very common for Europeans because, like I already said, Yveltal is so popular here that Lysander and then Fright Knight cost you the game so often, and he looks very confident. Galvantula and another Pokemon that is not a Fairy, Psychic or Lightning Pokemon would be enough for a knockout here, and let's see if he's able to get this.
Yeah, normally the Floatstone is the mitigating factor. Of course, the one thing Takuya does still play is 1 Hex Maniac, so putting the Floatstone on the Volcanion is still a defense that he has, a way of moving, but it means he has to weave in Hex Maniac during his turn, so it could be very awkward. Alessandro has to keep that in mind throughout the entire game, that it is an option. Takuya does find himself the Galvantula, so far we're seeing quite a bit of damage, not quite the knockout just yet. So it's going to be interesting to see what else he hit. He's got 1 more Max Elixir. He failed one just before the Professor Sycamore, and he's finding out what to put it on. Bear in mind, we've already mentioned the EXP shares, so even finding one here could be relevant. Unfortunately, again, not hitting it. He did have to Ultra Ball away a couple of Fair Energies, so he didn't have the highest chance of doing so. So that's pretty unfortunate for him. He's still going to be doing a good chunk of damage here. I'm not sure if it's ideal. It looks like that's the EXP share going onto the Galvantula. And this could be something he does. He does a huge chunk of damage this turn, setting it in range for the Galvantula later on in the game. So I think this is quite a cute play in my opinion.
Yeah, unfortunately, he wasn't able to get enough damage. He doesn't play the Hooper because he has the Shaman, and then you also have to keep in mind which type Pokemon are. So when you play Hooper and Mew, you can't have both of them on your bench, so it's kind of weird. But if he had played Hooper and not Mew, if that Mew would be another Pokemon, he could have Hooper for Volcanion, then deal enough damage.
Yeah.
This is, I think, the main reason why European players play the Super EX. But you also have to think about, he plays Shaman, but there is no Shaman on his bench, which you would usually expect. So yeah, kind of problematic situation, but he attached the XP share to Galvantula, so he is able to deal damage on the bench Evitar once this one goes to the bench, and maybe he's able to maybe stall out something and then get the double knockout on Shaman or something like this. Galvantula is just a great card, but Alessandro, his turn didn't have a lot of cards. He played the energy to frighten at Evitar, and then now he uses Y-Cycling because he knows, well, where am I going with this? I don't need Evil Ball. Y-Cycling is great, and then he can set up his bench Pokemon.
Absolutely, and this is potentially, we could see this turn, the double-edged sword of playing Fright Knight, because that Yveltal EX that's currently in the active, if Fright Knight was to come into the active, you take 2 prize cards, so it's going to be interesting to see if Takuya goes for that line of play. Alessandro did choose to attach an energy for turn onto his Fright Knight, just in case it was to go into the active position, but it is the sort of trade-off you have to do. Fright Knight is great at stopping your opponent's tools, but it does the same for you. He wasn't able to get his Garbodor out yet, so this could be a line that Takuya goes for. The Lysander could be really, really good for Takuya, in my opinion. He, of course, has to retreat beforehand. He has to be careful of doing that. But the Galvantula could also start putting more pressure on the board very early on, so it's going to be interesting to see if he has those outs in hand.
Oh no! And he does not retreat.
He's not retreated. He's taken the 2 prize cards, but he's left his own Volcanion active, so I
was just going to say, it would have been so weird that if he retreats, then plays Lysander, gets the knockout, and then knocks out the 2 Shamans. But unfortunately, he cannot retreat anymore, so he locked himself in the active position. What I think is even more sad is that he also had the Mew and Fates Collide on his bench that he could have put active just in case. But he's going with this.
That's really rough. You saw the grimace on his face. He realized as soon as he played the Lysander that the ordering was key there, and he didn't quite get it right. So he's got 2 more prize cards. I think off of that he got one of those Max Elixirs, which he plays now. So he does have attackers waiting in the back, but he really could have put a lot of pressure on Alessandro had he had retreated the Volcanion first, or as you say, promoted the Mew instead, which naturally has free retreat, which Volcanion has been given free retreat via the tool, and Alessandro has been able to take that off. We've been saying throughout the game that the Fright Knight is something to be very aware of. It's a huge factor in this matchup, and Takuya's been the one to bring it into the active, but it's also punished him.
Yeah, it would have been so, like I already said, if he could have used both, like Lysander knockout and then Galvantula, and then Alessandro was not able to retreat, he would have just won this turn.
Could have been over. Yeah.
It was very interesting, but unfortunately he forgot it. It's obvious that he forgot it.
Yeah.
But these things happen on high-level tournaments. When you have the pressure to play for a lot of prizes and a big title, it just becomes weird. And his opponent got Delinquent combo. Stadium Delinquent, and now there's only 1 hand card left for Takuya. He reveals that he plays 2 Volcanion, which is also very uncommon for European lists. They usually just play 1, because if that gets knocked out, you can kind of play Super Rod, and when your opponent plays Parasite, you just don't discard your Volcanion. But when you play Volcanion and Galvantula and that all XP share, that kind of stuff, Parasite gets a bit more hurtful, so maybe you might want to play something different, and here he plays Lysander for Trouble, and now he retreats.
So now he's going for the approach with Galvantula, maybe trying to go aggressive, and we do see him instantly go for those 2 Shamans, putting a lot of pressure on Alessandro. He needs to find a way to move this Trubbish and deal a KO with the most likely the Yveltal EX is going to be the option here.
Yes, I really want to see Alessandro's hand here, because playing Stadium Delinquent in 1 turn when your opponent has more than 3 hand cards doesn't seem that great on the first glance, so there might have been no other option, or he just wanted to make sure when your opponent has 4 hand cards, there is a good chance he has 2 good of them.
Yeah.
So let's see if he has a double colorless. He does not have a double color, so now he needs to draw a float stone. That might
Ooh, this
Oh,
could
he has
be
a
it.
float
He gets a
stone.
float stone
Oh,
off the
that was,
Sycamore,
that
so
was super close.
huge. We don't see any reaction from his face, but I'm sure there's a huge sigh of relief in there somewhere.
Yeah,
We see
I
his
actually think I would have not attached the energy there. I would have just played Sycamore to have the highest odds of getting retreat here, because we have two shamans that are almost knocked out. But well, Takuya plays 2-2 Garvantula, right? So in
Yes.
theory, if he gets another Joltik, that puts so much pressure on Alessandro right there.
So we see Alessandro come back with the knockout, dealing with the Galvantula. So Takuya now, he does have the Dragonite EX, so he could be recovering Joltik, he could be finding more Joltik, so he's going to be threatening Galvantula throughout the game. It's still going to be a threat in the back of Alessandro's mind throughout the game, but it looks like Takuya doesn't have much. He just has the Mew that he has to promote.
He got delinquented to one card,
Yeah.
and then he used Vertical Lysander to kind of gamble out this outcome. So naturally, there is not a high chance. I saw that he has an Ultra Ball, so next turn with his top deck, he can play Ultra Ball Shaman. He also, I think, it is a Genesect DH, which he did not put on the bench just to have the option. So if Alessandro gets the Gauder here, that might be game for him, because then Takuya can play Ultra Ball Shaman. But of course, there are a lot of cards in Takuya's deck left, and everything could come here.
We are going to see a switch from Alessandro. I saw him doing a little bit of maths in his head in terms of getting damage, so maybe he's going to try and hit this Max Elixir, and that could put him in range for maybe a Xerneas KO, or if he wants to go aggressive on the prize race, he could even try and deal with the Volcanion. There's two alternative approaches here. If you deal with the Volcanion EX, it's 60 damage gone. However, Alessandro is going to say, I want to deal with the only attacker and all energy on your board, because it takes a lot for Takuya to get damaging straight back. So very big play from Alessandro. He's he's got the float stone. He's had the huge let off, and straight away he's back right into this game, because that Yveltal EX is huge right now.
But there is no Parasity in play, and there is also no Garbodor, so Takuya can play Ultra Ball Shaman. He got Joltik from the top of his deck, which is, I think, one of the cards he did not want to see here.
Alternatively, though, it does mean that the Dragonite EX could pull both Joltiks out, so it could pay off for him in the end.
Yeah, in theory, if he wants to really take that approach. Unfortunately, when you already have Shaman on your bench, Dragonite isn't that great.
Yeah.
I was talking about this with a friend. If Dragonite would be a Dragon Pokemon, it would be so much better in Rainbow Force, because it wouldn't help with your Shamans, because often you just play Ultra Ball Dragonite and pull out the Shaman with your Dragonite to draw more cards. But let's see what's going on here.
Takuya does get himself that fresh 6. He was holding on to the Ultra Ball last turn, but it's only this turn where he has the 3 cards to actually make the Ultra Ball work. 6 cards from the Shaman EX. We do see the double colorless energy go down onto a Xerneas, which he's been able to find. What else do we have here? We see the Skyfield, and we follow up with an N. 4 cards to draw for Takuya, and only 3 for Alessandro. Trying to really limit Alessandro's outs, really to find something like Lysander, which could be really painful for Takuya.
The thing is, if Takuya gets the Max Elixir and hits, and then also gets a bunch of bench Pokemon to knock out the active Yveltal, which does not have Fighting Fury Belt, then this could be very problematic for Alessandro, because Takuya then only needs like a Lysander to win.
Yep.
And then it kind of makes the whole Javantula thing from earlier so pointless, but let's see what's happening here. I see a double colors energy card in his hand, can't really see the other cards, but since he takes a lot of time to move, it doesn't really seem like he has a great hand. Now Alessandro, again, if he gets the Lysander, this looks not that good.
So it's an interesting choice that Takuya chose to bring up the just retreat out of the Volcanion into the Xerneas with no energy on it at all. We know that he still has one more Floatstone in his deck, but I think he was not wanting the Volcanion in the active because Fright Knight's still on the bench for Alessandro. That could have been another huge problem for him, and then he would have been in the awkward spot. Ooh, and that's a really big enhanced hammer off the Trainer's Mail. That Alessandro's got to feel good about that, because again, Takuya's down to basically no board state right now. So again, Alessandro taking control. We've seen how popular enhanced hammer has been in these sorts of lists, and this is the exact reason why. You put your opponent back in attachment. It's such a fundamental part of the game that turns like that, it's as if he took a knockout on something with the energy, because he's been pressuring, he's taken a prize, he's 2 away now. That Yveltal is looking pretty safe now.
Yeah, but still, there's Skyfield in play. Takuya also has a Sycamore, and now with like a Dragonite, Max Elixir. But the Max Elixir is really important right now. Let's see if he gets one, and if so, also hits the energy card with it. I see 3 energies in his hand. He already has a lot of them in his discard, but he discarded 2 with Ultra Ball at some point. He also got this 2 discarded from a knockout. Now he has to play just a different stadium to draw more cards. He got an Ultra Ball from top of his deck, so there might be something in his deck that he wants to use now, but he only plays 2 Shaman EX, so he can't draw cards with it. This is not looking great.
This is not looking good at all, especially because to get that 1 card from Shaman, he had to get rid of the Skyfield. So getting something like Dragonite was not going to be helpful from then on. So we do see Takuya scoop. He took a real gamble that game. He said, I can win next turn if this Lysander pays off. I saw my opponent not do much. He went for the delinquent play at not the ideal time. So he took the gamble. It didn't pay off for him, but he was very close throughout that game, in my opinion.
Yeah, one thing, and I don't really like to say it, but it's just so weird that always he had Mio in his bench the whole game. It never had it active, but it has free retreat. So I think that's one thing. One of these things that you kind of get used to always promote the one with the float stone. I also, this one interesting topic I talked about with one of my friends is that there are a few plays that you just do with every deck. So as a good player, you always have to switch your deck depending on the meta game, but you can't really test that much with all of the decks. So there are a lot of sequencing stuff that you just get used to that are the same in every deck, and some decks they don't make a difference, and sometimes on very rare occasions these things are wrong to play it in this way. So, and then often people, they're so used to know Floatstone means I can just promote it that they forget that they have a Pokemon with just free retreat anyways.
Yeah, it becomes an automatic response type thing, and it can be awkward sometimes, and it really did punish Takuya there. He was he looked to be in great shape. We were mentioning on stream how the interaction was going to work. We thought he was going to take advantage of the Fright Night ability to deal with the Fighting Fury Belt, getting rid of the EX, but he had the fundamental flaw of forgetting that, oh yeah, I've got a Floatstone on my active Pokemon, and that's going to be a problem. We're going to see Takuya start off the game here. It looks like Alessandro does have 1 mulligan, so Takuya's going to be able to draw an extra card. You can see he's just put it on the side there, ready to go. And I think he started with the Xerneas non-EX, which is handy. He's just realised that he's got to go for the prize cam. That helps us out a lot. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, he has 1 Javantula and 1 Xerneas break prize, so not that important actually, but just decent prize cards in general. Also, prizing cards that are good is not that bad, because drawing good prize cards is often very, very good. I mean, it's like drawing an extra card. So this is also why I talk about Ton Map is kind of like a Trainer's Mail, but for all cards, because you get to choose 1 out of 6 cards when you play the Town Map, and when all of your prize cards are not great, well, the Town Map doesn't really help a lot. And here we see Takuya decided to go first, deciding Attachment Energy active, and did he discard? Well, I saw Max Elixir. This is not really what you want to discard.
I saw Max Elixir, I saw double Colourless Energy and 2 Fair Energies. That is not the best of Sycamores right there. He does follow up with an Ultra Ball. Also, the double Colourless Energy on the active, we know it's vulnerable because Alessandro does play double Enhanced Hammer, so that's going to be potentially a hiccup for him, but he does need to continue to get set up. That's one of the issues with the Rainbow Force deck, is that it does require not just 3 energy, but you also need to have a full bench of Pokemon. So when you're not drawing too well, you can't really wait around. You have to do Sycamore because the deck is very focused on initiating a prize race and just being powerful enough in the early game to see it throughout the game. So Takuya not doing the best of starts, the double Colourless Energy, the painful discard, and the Ultra Ball just for the Joltik, when we've seen he's had to get rid of the Galvantula as well. The second one's in his prize cards. This isn't going too well for Takuya so far.
Yeah, and now here we see Alessandro's first turn, just Trainer Mail for Ultra Ball. This is always cool, but I think he really wants an Enhanced Hammer or just a card to draw more. I think he can always Ultra Ball Shaman. Here he got a Lysander, which if you don't attack in this situation is just not really helpful, because Joltik also has free retreat.
Yeah, I think he's just taken that Lysander so that he's going to be able to discard it a little bit less painfully. Gets rid of that and the Professor Sycamore. He's going to search through his deck. It's typical for players to look through the entire deck to figure out what they have in there. Obviously, Alessandro has quite the important 1/1 Garbodor line, which I'm sure he's looking at right now. A few options he can go for. He does have the second Ultra Ball in hand, so he may go for something like Yveltal EX and then into a Shaman EX to draw a lot of cards. We've seen he's got rid of the Professor Sycamore, so it's likely he has a pretty strong hand here. He does opt to go for the Yveltal EX. This is a pretty strong play because this is the card that's going to be able to one-hit knock out Xerneas's. So that's the thing you want early game. Potentially Fright Night comes into play later, like we did see that interaction. And again, we see Alessandro now is the one having to do a painful Sycamore because 3 Sycamore in discard very early on, as well as one of his precious double colorless energies.
Yeah, but the hand he drew was very good. Well, he did search his deck for the other Evil Tall EX, so...
he shows his opponent that he's trying to just declump the deck there. I think that sometimes there are issues. People worry about stacking if you're going to try and randomize your deck. As long as Takuya's happy, he can shuffle as much as he wants to make sure that Alessandro is not doing anything shifty with his deck. It's just that the Max Elixir had the unlikely outcome of having lots of Fright Knights in that top 6 cards. We do see him hit the Enhanced Hammer that, of course, we mentioned that it could be a worry for Takuya. It does set him back, but Alessandro just has to pass here.
Yeah, but while he got the Enhanced Hammer, he also got a very decent hand. The only problem is now ends are more stronger because he already discarded a few supporter cards. However, I think he's still at the better position and just in general. I feel like the matchup is in Alessandro's favor. The Evotars are so strong, and because there is no fighting through but in Takuya's list, it's kind of problematic. And also because he has no switching. He has neither Olympia nor Switch nor Escape Rope. So, yeah, like you already said, Hexmaniac Flowstone is the only way for him to retreat.
So we do see Takuya, he's gone for the N, he's reattached a Fair Energy to his active Pokemon. It's really his prerogative to get more benched Pokemon. And it doesn't have the quite explosive sort of starts that you can have by playing the Hoopier EX. So it's interesting to see the diversity and the variation between more typical lists we've seen in the West and the way that Takuya is choosing to play this list. Now, over to Alessandro, he gets the Floatstone onto the active Yveltal EX. He also has his attachment for turn of a Dark Energy to his bench, and he's going to follow up with the N as well. Choosing not to use VS Seeker for more Professor Sycamores, I think mainly that's because there was a few Dark Energy in that hand, so he wants to protect those, maybe hit some more Max Elixirs and increase his odds here. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the benched Yveltal EX come active to start pressuring Takuya. The only question is how worried he is that it could be easily KO'd, so it's a decision that Alessandro has to make here. We see a pretty decent hand. He finds himself another Fright Knight Yveltal, which is going to go down onto his bench as that threat. It really does force Takuya into the awkward spot. So threatening the Trubbish, threatening the Fright Knight is a really cool position to be in if you're Alessandro, in my opinion.
Yeah, what I just realized is Alessandro plays even 4 of the Fright Knight Yveltal.
Yeah.
It's such a good card, but in this matchup it doesn't shine that much as in other matchups because your attacker is not a Pokemon EX, so you can't really prepare 2-hit knockouts for later. But it's still very good, and here Takuya a bit salty. Again, not hitting his Max Elixir, even though he plays 9 Fairy Energy cards. And also, just in general, his start, his field doesn't really look great, so not everything is going right here.
We see an Ultra Ball getting rid of a Fairy Energy and the Xerneas. He's going to look to find himself a Shaman to draw some more cards. I'm sure he's looking for something like double Colorless Energy so he can start pressuring. I think also something like an EXP share would be a really big pickup for him to try and chain some Xerneas breaks, because that is awkward. We see the Genesect get put down, as well as the Faded Town, so that he's able to draw one more card from the Shaman EX, a full 6 in fact, which is fantastic. The Genesect DX, it's in here because it's a metal type, so that helps with the Rainbow Force, but it has the small benefit of the Drive Change ability, allowing you to take a tool off of Genesect once during your turn. And this is really handy because you can also have it as a placeholder almost. You just slap a Floatstone onto your Genesect EX, it's there for the entire game, so you can then pick it up whenever you need to. If, for example, maybe a Volcanion is stuck in the active position, you can use Drive Change and then move the Floatstone onto Volcanion. Bear in mind, of course, though, that Fright Knight is a factor, so maybe the Floatstones aren't as helpful here, but in general, the Genesect DX is a nice tech card, more than just giving you 30 damage.
Yeah, also when you have a Fighting Fury Belt in your hand, I mean, of course he doesn't play it, but so for example, in this situation, in XP share, and there is no good Pokemon you can attach it to, you attach it to Genesect, play Professor Sycamore. When you then draw a Pokemon you want to have the XP share to, you can just take it from your Genesect, then attach it to your Xerneas, and then just attach a Floatstone. And like you already said, it's when you get, for example, when your opponent plays N and you need a Floatstone, you can just take it there. Because there is no Tool Scrapper, there is no Xerosic, and there is no Megaphone. So the only way to get kind of rid of tools is to use Fright Knight, but they don't discard it, so you can use them later again.
So it looks like he has got into his Galvantula, just has to pass it over to Alessandro, so missing out on the double Colorless Energy. We do see the turn attachment by Alessandro. It's going to be the Dark Energy. It's all he needs to finish off this already damaged Xerneas, and he's debating what else to play here. Both players have used a couple of ends on each other and stuff like that. It's not been the most progressive game so far, but Alessandro does have the option. It looks like he's got VS Seeker. That would be the main reason to look through the discard pile. Looks like we're going to see a Max Elixir first, and that whiffs. So both players not quite on full cylinders right yet. But we do at least see, I think right now, Alessandro is in a slightly more commanding position.
Yes, his board just looks good in general. Well, Takuya has like one Xerneas and a lot of different Pokemon in his bench, so that's great from there. But it doesn't really look that great, because Garbodor and Alessandro is actually in play when this is impressive with only 1/1 Garbodor, and when he wants to play it, he can use the Floatstone. Maybe Takuya has again some kind of weird Javantula action, but I actually doubt it.
Yeah.
However, because you can play Lysander and N in the same turn, which would be cool, because then you could play like Lysander, Garbodor, N, and when your opponent doesn't get the Floatstone, you're in a good position. But because you can't do both of them at the same time, you either have to hope your opponent doesn't have a Floatstone, or you have to play N first and then hope your opponent doesn't draw well, and then you hope you also get the Lysander, and then you can do it. So I don't really like the Garvantula that much, because it doesn't really help. Like you also saw in the first game, it attacked once, then got knocked out, and that's it. Then your opponent has 2 Pokemon, 60 damage on it, and you still have to knock out other Pokemon to win the game.
So Alessandro concludes his turn. He puts the Floatstone onto Garbodor, choosing to get the ability lock set down. With that, Takuya is able to comfortably put the Floatstone on Volcanion this time. He can be a bit more liberal with that here. We see a second Joltik come down onto the bench. We see the double Colorless Energy get attached to Shaman EX. Maybe he just wants to recycle his hand here. He's going to free retreat, go for the Sky Return, just for a little poke of 30 damage, going straight back into that Volcanion EX, which has got the free retreat. Maybe Takuya is going to try and set up the double Galvantula play. Potentially that's an option. Right now, there's not many Shaman. Well, there's no Shamans on Alessandro's bench, so it's really not as effective as it could be. I think Takuya here, he didn't have the best of hands. He needs to recycle. The Shaman going back into the hand isn't that helpful, because the ability locks back in. So really, Takuya scrabbling for anything to do. If you've got nothing to do, you may as well get 30 damage on via Sky Return. It's better than doing literally nothing. So yeah, that's all we see.
But I'm wondering why he put Volcanion active but not the Joltik, because the Joltik on the bench doesn't help too much. It's also lightning Pokemon just like Javantula. So, but the Volcanion Floatstone is so risky, because Alessandro can then just get the knockout with the Fright Knight, and also he has a Pokemon EX being the Genesect on his bench. So in theory, Alessandro can just retreat and then apply a lot of pressure with his Fright Knight Evital, but he didn't get that far, so he's just Evil Ball for 70 damage, and I think, yeah, that was kind of close, actually.
Yeah, that could have been a little bit more punished. Takuya does get away with that sort of play. We do see the attachment of double Colorless Energy now. We do see the Shaman get benched just for the 30 damage, because, of course, the Garbodor is in play. I don't really know what else he has in his for his turn. Looks like he's going to opt to free retreat, and we're going to see damage here, 3, 6, 9, 12 for the 2 dual types. 15, 18 with the Shaman and the Genesect, so he has got there. So that 30 damage, the prod from the Shaman EX is exactly what he needed to set up the KO on Alessandro. The only thing here is that Alessandro has another Yveltal EX pretty much ready to go.
Yeah, and also it should be enough for the knockout when he just, he doesn't even need another energy. He can just knock it out. The resistance only cancels out the base damage, and then because they have 6 energies in total, that's 120 damage, they can just take the knockout. So that's Xerneas compared to the Yveltal, to most Yveltals that we have. I think even all Yveltals have 130 HP. Xerneas only has 120, and this makes a big difference.
Absolutely, and we see Alessandro choosing to attach another double Colorless Energy onto that Yveltal EX. He's pretty comfortable that it can survive and just go big and make it so large that nothing can tank a hit at that point. We've seen so often that Evil Ball gets into ridiculous amounts of numbers, and this is exactly how it happens. You choose to Evil Ball on a turn when you expect that you're safe and that you can not get return KO'd, so that you're able to deal with whatever Takuya has to bring up. And it looks like he doesn't have too much. He benches the Mew, attaches the double Colorless Energy onto the Shaman EX, and it might be another Sky Return play here. Not sure what else he has really to deal with Alessandro's board, which is really intimidating right now.
Yeah, I think just Sky Return. Again, interesting what he promotes. This time he puts the Joltik active. He doesn't want his Volcanion to get knocked out. Now he only gets one prize card. Maybe then he promotes the Mew and can go from there. However, yeah, like I already said, Gabado is in place, so his Shamans don't really do a lot. He doesn't really have the option to go for Dragonite because it's just another... The only thing it does is being a colorless Pokemon that has more HP than Shaman. But Shaman has a Sky Return, which is not that bad, so... It'll be very interesting to see how Takuya is trying to turn this game around, but I don't really see him winning here.
This is pretty awkward, and a brilliant turn from Alessandro. He's not stopping here. He's got himself another Fright Night Yveltal. He's attaching energy to it, and he's put in Reverse Valley. This is a stadium card that is sometimes played in these Yveltal decks. He's actually choosing to play 2 in here, just to increase your damage output a little bit. It also bounces the Faded Town. I think the main reason, he didn't really need the damage that turn. The main reason is he's gone down to 3 prize cards now. He doesn't want to draw this if he gets hit with an N. So you may as well play it down so that you draw into more quality cards, expecting and anticipating Takuya to try and respond with the Disruption Supporter Reven, which it of course is at this late stage in the game.
Again, it's kind of sad, to be honest.
This is
especially because also the Genesect doesn't have the drive change anymore.
Yeah. This is really, really awkward. We're going to see actually an interesting play. Alessandro is going to free retreat with a Float Stone, choosing to take the knockout and set up the Volcanion EX with the Fright Night. He feels very safe. He's only getting poked for 30 damage a turn, and that's all Takuya can do. He doesn't draw into any new draw supporters or any way to get out of this funk where he could only go for the Sky Return, whereas Alessandro was able to capitalize as aggressively as possible, take full advantage of the low HP that the Mew had in the active, so he could get an extra 60 damage on the board, so that Volcanion was always in range. So really well played from Alessandro. Takuya not able to set up as much as we would like, and that is a risk sometimes playing the Rainbow Road, or the Rainbow Force deck I should say, because there's a lot of things that need to go right for this deck to go well, and to make sure that you have enough attackers throughout the game. We know that Takuya does play EXP Share alongside Max Elixir, so typically you should be okay to be able to get enough energies into play. Didn't quite work out for him because he wasn't able to draw into the things in the right combination. Some of those Max Elixirs weren't hitting, but not only does he need a lot of energy to carry on throughout the game, he also needs that large bench size, and it's not always easy to get all of those things at once, so really not great for for Takuya there. Nothing really came down in the right order, so Alessandro able to take control and win the game ultimately.
Yeah.